Hello, I'm going to talk about interpersonal communication. Let me give you a tiny bit of background here. A lot of this program is going to build on a program that I've been teaching for years, dimensional management through leadership, people skills. We're going to look at the 5 steps of communication. I also teach all over the country interviewing the gentle art of persuasion. And a lot of the stuff we talk about is going to be based on that. I spent 32 years in law enforcement. I taught all over the country, and interpersonal communication, negotiation, these are some of the key areas. So we're going to look at and try to help build some skills that will help you far beyond what you've had so far. Communication is not interrogation. In the late 70s, the RAND Corporation did a study on why cases failed. And they found out that we should interview, we interrogate victims and witnesses, and we interrogate, and following the same thing, we interrogate people. What I mean by interrogation is we tell them what they need to know. We ask for short little answers instead of probing and getting good communication. So we find ourselves interrogating, not communicating, not interviewing to solve problems. Communication is the key. Communication is what solves things. Be it an investigation, be it a subordinate, be it a relationship, be it with your children. Communication becomes the key. And just because you have the power, you find that you have very little power in reality. And so we need to probe, we need to find out. We don't need to tell them and have them confirm. Communication. We all communicate differently. So we need to learn the way people communicate. We need to know what motivates them. We need to know how they communicate, not just the way we communicate. And again, it builds on that relationship. It builds on, instead of talking, listening, probing, finding out what they need. All right, I want to talk about some of the myths. Sometimes we think that certain people are excellent. A lot of it comes from experience. The more you do, the better you get. The more you communicate, the more you learn. In fact, there's Harvey Mackay in his book, Swimming with Sharks, at the very end talked about the importance of starting to build a file on people. Now, most of you are panicking right now, because when I say file, you think, what you did wrong. No, build a file on what they do right, what makes them happy, where their kids are, the good things. So we can build the tools to communicate. It isn't where we got this dynamic person, like a salesperson. No, communication's far more, and we come from many, many different experiences. But the more we do, the better we get. All right, who is the communicator? Now here comes the key. The one variable that you have control over is you, and we're all different. So what are your strengths, and how do you achieve them? I remember an incident where a young lady was going into a tough neighborhood, and the language really bothered her. So one of the agents where I worked literally sat down and wrote some words on a card, and you can use your imagination. And she practiced the words to help her not be offended. Because what happens if I use certain words that immediately bother you? Who controls the interview? So the key is we need to look at what are my strengths, what are my fears, and how do I achieve and build on my strength and minimize my weaknesses. But the one key is us. And that's what we have to look at. Don't worry about the other person. Build your strengths and try to achieve in that communication. So some of the things we're going to talk about is, I want you to picture you're like an actor on a stage. And the roles change all the time. And you need to be able to adjust to the needs of the person and the environment. That's what communication is. It's not a stagnant world, it's communication. Let's look at some of the key things. Sincerity. Sincerity is trust. And again, communication builds on a relationship, and sincerity becomes one of the key elements. If you don't believe me or I lie to you. Now, some people say, okay, it's a small lie. No, a lie is a lie. When I violate the trust, the relationship, then communication becomes a roadblock. Sympathy, understanding what people feel. Feeling there is sympathy, is feeling it. But more important is empathy. That's the understanding. I don't need to know what you feel like to be a victim or sitting in the chair, but I understand the fear and the anxiety of that chair. I jumped back on purpose. I want to tell you a little story. And it helps explain what we talk about empathy. And it's a story came from a training, and I just want to use it. It's winter. You know how long winters can be, and let's take the story to Rochester, Minnesota. And it's one of these fairly nice days that sometimes show up in the middle of winter. And you walk out, and there's a bench there, and you sit down, and you're having a cup of coffee, and a donut probably. And all of a sudden comes this guy, and he has 5 of the worst behaved children you ever saw. They're screaming, they're playing, they're pushing things. And you turn to the person and you say, and you're trying to be polite, listen, people are trying to relax out here. Yeah, you think you could kind of control your children a little. And he leans over in a very quiet voice and he says, I am so sorry. They're normally not like this, but we've been up all night. Their mother's in the hospital dying of cancer, and we just came out for a little air. We're so sorry. We'll leave now. See, the problem is you thought you understand because you use your reference rather than probing and finding out what is the real issue. And that's the strength of empathy. Empathy is a very powerful thing that you can work on, and you need to pay attention of the other person. What is the best communication setting? Depends on the incident. Quiet, one-on-one, same level, eye contact, respectful, not a crowd of people. You don't want to tell people what they're doing wrong and criticize them. You want to set an environment that people feel comfortable with, that's respectful. So the setting does matter on where I talk to you and how I talk to you and what the environment. Steps of communication. Now the steps I'm talking about this is probably the best interviewing and communication program I ever saw was leadership through people skills. So we're going to use this in this to help put together the steps of interviewing. Benefit and consequences, I'll put them up and then we'll talk about them in detail. Their story, your story, venting emotion, and final resolution. Step by step as we travel through the steps of good communication and problem solving. And conflict resolution. Step 1, benefit. Why is this person going to talk to you? If there's no benefit, there's no consequence. Let's take a simple scenario. Somebody's been coming in late for work. Big deal? If it's not a big deal, are you going to solve it? So you need to articulate and be able to say, what is the consequences or the benefit of this person changing their behavior? If there is none, the chances of you being able to change behavior is very, very slight. So, and I have to articulate. Now be careful when we talk about, let's take this scenario. The issue is not that they make you mad. The issue is not that they're disrespectful. The issue is they're coming in late for work. But I better be able to articulate. So I want to say at this date and time, you came in late. And this date and time, you came in late. And now I need to frame it. Why does it matter? And that becomes the first step as we look at it. Step 2, their story. This is the hardest thing. Learn to keep your mouth shut. Don't tell them what's wrong with them. You're coming in late for work because you're disrespectful. You're coming in late for work because you don't care about the other people. No, the minute you tell them what the answer is, you'll never know their truth. Years ago, I remember I didn't get a promotion. I believed I had it coming. I believed I was the best person. And the person brought me in to his office and he said, Everett, I want to talk to you why you didn't get the promotion, which is really great. And then he told me why this other person got the promotion, how it's going to benefit everybody in the long term and how it works great downtown. Did he really want to know what I thought? The answer was no. Or he would ask me and we'd have talked and then he would explain why he had a different decision. There it becomes the key. To learn what the real issues is, you have to probe, but you cannot tell them the answer. Once you do, in your position of power and authority, you'll never truly get what they were going to tell you. So listening becomes the key. And this is a hard thing, because a lot of times we're used to telling people what the answer is rather than finding out through their perspective how they see the issue. And it becomes an issue of power. Once you're in a position of power, you share your views or observations, the odds of truly getting what they feel or believe gets really thin. So you need to try to be quiet, don't allow. So in other words, allow the story to unfold and just let them tell their story and probe and listen and get as much detail you can so you truly understand. Summarize back to them what you think they meant. So you truly understand where they're coming from. And even if it disagrees, be very careful verbally and non-verbally. And once you truly have the story, then you can go to the next step. So let it unfold piece by piece. Let them vent. Now I say let them vent, let them show their feelings. Get a good idea. A lot of times you find out you're here for one reason and other issues come up that need to be resolved. So communication becomes the key. Active participation. You need to be involved and help them. I'm going to make a change in a policy. If I don't involve you, no matter what, even if it's something good, it becomes key. Example, we had a new superintendent of BCA and he was very big into wellness, and he decided that he's going to have for Asians, we're going to go to the gym free down the block. Brand new gym was being built. He didn't communicate it. He told us this is what he's going to do. All of a sudden there was organized resistance against him, wondering what his true motive was, why he didn't involve people in the communication and in the decision. And everything fell through. Even great ideas can fail if you poorly communicate the benefit or the consequences of these ideas. Step 3, I now have everything you have to say, I believe. Never do have everything. And now I can tell you, and we start off, here's where I agree, and you please, I'm sure there's things you agree, and here's where I disagree. Now this is a point that people are going to get resistance, or they might get angry. You need to explain, here's where I see the difference. So let's go back to coming in late. Yes, I agree that you move to another area and the traffic's a problem. Yes, I agree, that the expectations, the timing is running a difficult. But you must come in on time because of the consequences. It's other people responsible. There's different things going on. Working as a team, you can't do it. So the key, it's now where I can tell. Now again, it's respectful. It's not a personal attack. It's about the incident, not about you. Communication. You must first understand before attempting to be understood. I need to communicate, and I need to learn. And once I learn, then I can now tell you how I see it. Step 4. Now step 4 is venting our emotions and working out solution. Step 4 is where I'm literally, now remember this, when I say participation doesn't mean a vote, doesn't mean everybody has a vote. It's being respectful, listening to what you have to say, but I'm responsible if I'm the supervisor in the final answer. Now believe me, the best answer, if it comes from you, is great. But if we totally disagree, I am still the person that makes the decision. But this is the point where people will get angry or can get angry. Now, or you can just watch them shut down. Don't ignore emotions and feelings. When you see them, address them. I see this makes you angry. And dig and probe again, finding out what the underlying cause. Step 5 is the greatest failure in most cases. A lot of times people are very good on all 4, but they fail miserably here. You believe me, just because I want to solve it doesn't mean it's solved. Let's go to something back to what we talked about, coming in late for work. We sit down, you tell me why it's a hardship, I tell you still have to. We now come up with a solution. The final resolution can be that I want you to check in with your supervisor, I want you to do A, B, and C, and we agree upon it. Then it's like a contract with a follow-up that I want to set a meeting in 2 weeks and I want to review how we're doing. And the bottom thing, if it fails, I have went through the process, and the next level of the process can be discipline. But the goal here isn't discipline, the goal is to change behavior. And sometimes it isn't even, it's purely, I've always done it this way. You're a new boss and you want me to do it differently. So you set the standards, you come up with an agreement, and you hold people accountable, which takes us back to one of our key areas, accountability. Summarize now. Summarize exactly what we agreed upon. And if it's a big issue, put it in writing. Send them an email saying, here's what we agreed upon, I want you to respond. And always set up a follow-up. I'd like to talk to you in 2 weeks and see how it's going. These become the steps of communication. Okay, now I have an exercise. I want you now to think about a real life situation, something real, some conflict that you've faced. And I want you to put it together, I want you to write it up and follow what we have here, and I want you to post this in the discussion for you and your group to discuss this. Communication is the key. the more you build your skills. And communication is not I win, you lose. Communication is that I find out what you need and what I need, and together we can achieve them. So I look forward to seeing this in the discussions. You have a good day.